Right. If I could start off the first question and address it to Johan. You have been quoted as saying that your priority is not to build sales, but build a brand. Can you just elaborate a bit more about how being in Hong Kong would help you do that?
Yes, certainly. Perhaps I first need to elaborate on what I mean by this as a central philosophy on how we execute our business. So many companies start from the point of view of how many units do I need to sell and how much profit do I need to make. If you start there, I think you get the whole process wrong. For us, as a contender in the premium sector, we need to make sure that people understand exactly who we are, where the brand is positioned, what our values are, how we communicate these, how these are experienced through the product substance, the design of the vehicles, the real tangible feeling you get when you get into the car and open the door or close the door, the sound, the quality of the materials, the ownership experience at the dealership, the profitability, if you like, of our dealer partners. All of these things are important contributors to help differentiate and define and position your brand. And if you take care of these, if that is your priority and that's your primary focus, the sales and the profits will follow. So, for us, being a company that until now has been very much immersed in the processes and the mindset and the business philosophy of a corporate parent that is more rooted in the mainstream market, where clearly there are different sets of expectations from the consumers that lead you to a different approach in terms of product concept, substance, design, distribution, and so on. We needed to begin to create that differentiation. So step one was the creation of a separate company. Step two, move to a place that you can plug into an environment where the broader society really reflects premium values. And I mean, look at Hong Kong. You need only to go out and see that there is no other market in this world that has a higher share of premium brands as the constitution of the overall car market. I think the premium sector in Hong Kong accounts for just over 30% of the overall car market. So a lot of affluent consumers, a lot of high quality, conspicuous consumption, yes, but it's also an environment where there are many successful entrepreneurs who then help to lead and shape opinions and attitudes. And that's what we want to plug into. We want to see the world through the eyes of our consumers. We want to develop that mindset. We want to internalize it and use this to help to understand the expectations of our customers better. There is no better place than to do that than right here.
I have here a question for Jack. We can say that you began your career as an academic. You're now, the head of a listed company. I think the question is, how did you find that transformation? And what sort of path did you have to go through?
Well, simply put, I think it's a dream come true. I think very few people are fortunate enough to have the best of both worlds. In academic, there are a lot of satisfaction, but there's no dole. In the real world, there's less satisfaction, but the reward is probably high. But see, on the serious side, I think that when I was an academic, I've always wondered, what if? What if my idea, which was just published on the journals, what if I carry it through what people really wanted? If I were still at the university as a full-time academic, maybe I would still be contemplating the algorithm for a motion sensors. But now that I can actually apply it and apply on a sports event that I really enjoy, I think this is really a lot of fun. But of course, mentally, you have to be prepared because especially before the IPO, is rather stressful. Especially we started very small. I think that I started the business with about 150,000 Hong Kong dollars. So it has been a very long journey, and we never get any VC funding from anyone. So it's a long and windy journey.
Thank you. Here's one for Michael Young. Would you ever consider moving to mainland China?
Probably not, to be honest. I go to Shanghai a lot. I work with a lot of companies there. And sometimes it's appealing because there is a lot more space. And sometimes, when the sun's out and, there's blue sky, you feel like you could be in Paris. Seriously, because, you've got Louis Vuitton, you've got Bulgari, you've got Chanel, cappuccinos, it's kind of unusual. But the point of me being in Hong Kong is really that I don't have to move anywhere. And it is definitely a place that people pass through a lot. And equally as a place for me to travel to other countries from, it works really well. So Shanghai is just that little bit too far away for me to have as a base. So if I think, this week I've got half my clients are in Hong Kong. So, it's a really productive place. And when I want to leave, if I've had too much of the concrete, it's 2 hours for me to go to Bali, or, seriously, it's nice to have that release. So I think, no, this has become home, really. I bought a house here when I first came, so that was a really wise decision. I wouldn't want to buy one now. Thank you.
In our conversation earlier, you also mentioned something about what you thought about the state of the design industry here in Hong Kong. Could you just share your thoughts with us?
It's developing slowly, but pretty much, I started life in London, and I was living in Shoreditch when I was at college, Shoreditch in London, which has now become the sort of epicenter of cool in London. And design really develops through culture and the support system you have as a young individual. So whilst I didn't have any money and I slept on floors, on sofas for the first probably 7 years of my career because there was no money, I was losing more money than I was making. I learned the hard way, thankfully. It's a good lesson. But the support structure you've got of a lot of design individuals in a city is really important to the development of it culturally. And I think Hong Kong being a financial centre it's a lot slower to have that. The ground troops and the artists and the designers surviving here is a little bit tricky for them. But saying that, in the last 5 years, my studio was one of the first down in Sheungwan. There was only one gallery there called Parasite, and now it's become the whole gallery area of Hong Kong. So it's developing slowly but surely. And in the same way, I guess, when I went to Tokyo for the first time in 1994, and it's now 20 years later producing some of the best designers in the world, I actually do think because of the input with business and energy going into Hong Kong that the same will eventually happen here, slowly but surely.
You've got 30 seconds left for this question. Really like your products. Look gorgeous. Have you ever had a product that didn't make it? Can you give us an example and why you think it did not work?
I can't remember the ones that got away. I'd say that when I was younger. Now I don't make mistakes. I really can't afford to. Everything we do in the studio becomes successful. We can't take money from a client and have a failure. The only thing that's hard in the studio is to keep up with technology, and the hardest client to keep up with is Apple, because they constantly change. Keeping up with Apple specification is the hardest thing to do in the world. It changes on a weekly basis. So when you're working with products that interact with that system, that's when it's the easiest failure rates can happen. And actually, most of the companies I work with now will not refuse to work on products that are associated to that brand because it's very difficult for them to keep up with it. But apart from that, all good.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I need to wrap up this session, so it remains for me to thank all our three speakers on stage for their really insightful presentations.